What up, everybody? Welcome to the GMC Podclass. This podcast is dedicated to people who are deciding to take a leap of faith.
Yep.
Right now we're in trying times where everybody's dependent on some kind of income to. Everybody's looking for ways to provide some kind of multiple streams of income, or just depending on the government to help them out. So with this podcast, what we're doing is highlighting people who literally said, fuck it, I'm just going to gamble on myself. And one of those people, and this happens to be a good friend of mine from Brockton, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston, right?
Yep.
Suburb.
Unfortunately, because I'm not a Boston fan, but hey, that's just me. But real quick, I want to run down this sister's resume. We out here. Mediascope, one of my favorites, according to RP. The Come Up, the Dr. Vibe Show, the Last Weekly Podcast, and another favorite of mine, Fired Up with Steve Bowles.
That was the one.
Sound Off, which is featured or hosted by our guest today. Last but not least, No Vaseline Podcast. But we gotta talk about that one. We gotta talk about No Vaseline Podcast. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, a great friend of mine, a sister who is a boss lady, went from Boston to New York. Now she's down in Savannah, Georgia, but she created a platform and a machine to generate multiple streams of passive income.
Yes. Yep.
WJMS Radio's CEO, Jaymie Bowles, aka Jaymie Jam. What is happening?
I gotta correct you. We got like 14 shows on the platform, man. You missed a couple.
I'm sorry. I just listened to just a few.
Just a few. Just a couple.
It's early. You only had coffee today.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Baby, man, welcome and thank you for interviewing with us. And like I said, this is something where we're highlighting, especially with it being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We wanted to highlight sisters who are just taking that leap of faith, banking on themselves, and just ultimately the message of, if I can do it, you can do it too. So thank you so much for being with us today. I'm going to kick this thing off. Like I said, we're this series is about people who took a leap of faith. So for you, when was that moment that you decided to take a leap of faith and gamble on yourself?
There's been a few of them, actually, to be honest with you. I kind of do a lot of renegade.
Very first moment.
Yeah.
I would say, I guess my first gamble on myself was college. I pretty much decided at age 18, I was like, you know what, or 17 at that, because I was young. But I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm going away for college. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and I had been there my entire life, and I was just tired. I was like, you know what, I want to try something different. And I was like, I'm going to move away. And so I literally applied to no in-state schools. I applied to all out-of-state colleges. I ended up winding up at Arcadia University. Shout out AU down in Glenside, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Which, literally like kind of changed my entire trajectory, and it changed my life because I met you down there in Philly, of course, but I also met, my best friends. I got into radio. But really, my first leap of faith and first gamble on myself was trusting myself to really be an adult and move away from home, from everybody and everything that I knew, and kind of start fresh and brand new down in Philadelphia. And that's what I did. I was like, you know what? I'm either going to sink or I'm going to swim, and I can't afford to go back home to mommy and daddy. So it looks like I'm a swim. And so that's when it was. That's what I did. I just never looked back. I mean, I looked back, but like I didn't really look back.
You ran with your crutches.
Definitely. So, with WJMS Radio, what made you decide, like, you know what, it's time for me to start my own radio company or radio station?
So the funny part is I didn't want to have a radio station. I tell people that all the time. They're like, oh, what, did you always want to do this? And I'm like, no, I didn't want to do this at all. This was never even in my my career trajectory path. Like I was never even looking at, having my own station. My glass ceiling for me was to be an on-air personality with Sirius XM. Like I was trying to be, like not Howard Stern, but like I was just trying to be in my own lane on Sirius XM and kind of do my own.
Gotcha.
So that was like my goal. And I went to college at Arcadia. I ended up being a communications major when I discovered my love for radio again. And then just through networking and the connections that I've made in life, I actually moved to New York before I started WJMS Radio. So I left Philly. And a contact of mine reached out to me from Philly Hot Radio. And he was like, hey, I want you to broadcast on my station. And I was like, that's great. But I was like, I really don't want to commute from Philly to New York every weekend to do a show. Like, that's just a lot. Like I'm trying to work too. Like I was working, going to school and doing all kinds of things. So I was like, nah, I'm really not trying to commute like that. And he was like, well, no, we'll do it remotely. So you can be live from New York, but broadcasting on our station in Philly. And I was just like, it was like, that kind of blew my mind because honestly, it wasn't, it just wasn't something that was happening very often. It was like still in the brand new stages of like internet podcasting and all that. It was like unheard of for me to be live in Philly, but sitting in New York. It was like a thing. It was just like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And so that kind of opened up a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities that I just never even really knew existed. And so I launched WJMS after, being on Philly Hot Radio for about 5 or 6 months. They were going through some tumultuous times. And, the owner came to me and was like, listen, would you like to, have a station on our platform? And it was like, I don't want to say and be cliche and be like, oh, it was a light bulb. But honestly, something in my head just clicked because I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. It was like one of those things where it was just like I had been tunnel vision for this one type of goal. And I didn't even look at the bigger picture and see, oh, rather than being on somebody's platform, you can own the platform. And I was like, yeah, that's better. That's better. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. And so I dived headfirst into it. I didn't know, I'll tell you right now, I knew nothing about how to run a radio station. I literally did nothing. I knew nothing about this entire process. And I was like, no, yeah, this is it. Like, whatever this is, I need to do it. Like, I just knew that was an opportunity. And it was just like, absolutely, whatever it is I have to learn to figure it out, I'm gonna do it. But I'm not gonna turn down this chance. And so I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. What do we got to do? And 6 months later, I launched WJMS Radio in December of 2015. And
6 months.
6 months.
That's all.
From inception to launch, 6 months. It was like
6 months.
Whew.
So when you created WJMS Radio, what were some of the roadblocks that you faced and how did you get through them?
It sounds like it's too smooth now. Come on.
6 months, you in the game. Like,
no,
Yeah,
man.
there's a lot going on that 6 months.
There had to be some speed bumps in the mix.
Right.
Listen, I live on a speed bump, like literally every day. No, but honestly, like I said, I had no experience running a radio station whatsoever. So I didn't know, all I knew was like being on radio. I didn't know the ins and outs in the background. Obviously I had experience with mixers and everything else, but like, I didn't know, I had never run a business. So honestly, I had a lot of uphill battle, and internet radio and podcasting, like everybody now has a podcast because of COVID and resources and stuff like that, and the availability of just everything you need to do it on your own. But at the time, that wasn't the case. There weren't first of all, there's not a lot of Black women who own platforms like this. There's not a lot of women that own platforms like this. And there's not a lot of internet platforms that operate the way WJMS does. But roadblock wise, I had to learn how to do it. I had to launch the station, come up with a name for the radio station, which also meant I had to like research and figure out, okay, is this trademarked? Is this copyrighted? Can I use this? I had to be creative. So that was an issue. I had to get the logo. I had to get an LLC when I realized, oh, I'm going to have people on my platform like Chris who say whatever the hell is on their mind. I'm not trying to catch no lawsuits. So I need to incorporate an LLC this so that my personal life is separate from WJMS. So people can't come after my personal belongings. They can only come after what WJMS has. So that was a roadblock. But literally, when I tell you this whole radio station has literally been speed bumps, it has been a roller coaster ride because I had to learn everything you could possibly think of. I had to learn and I had to figure it out kind of on my own because there weren't really, I was in my own lane. There weren't a lot of internet radio stations kind of out there to really look at. And then in the midst of all of that, I ended up taking WJMS off the platform that it was and owning and taking it under my own wing. So it's literally my platform and my station. I don't operate under anybody's umbrella. So it was literally trial by fire in every way, shape, and form. So learning how to use the software, to having hosts on who then look to me for troubleshooting the software when they have issues. I'm like, I have to be able to fix your issues, because like I can't just pick up the phone and call IT. I am IT.
There you go.
So, you know, I had to learn the ins and outs of both running a business, starting and launching and keeping a radio station, and just everything that goes in between and amongst all of those two things together. It was hard. It still is hard. I'm still learning every day. So
absolutely. So with this, with you know, with WJMS, I know you charge a fee.
yes.
So has there ever been a time where people came to you like, yo, I want to do a podcast, I want to do a radio show, but see, right, I ain't got no money right now, but what I could do is I could promote you, blah, 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 if you can hook me up. How many times have you gotten that?
Friends, family,
Strangers,
strangers,
right?
Just anybody,
right?
So I need y'all to take off your shoes and your socks. I'm gonna need all your toes to count. I gotta take off my shoes and socks. It's been a ton. Like, I mean, and that's the thing. Like with having a radio station like this and having an internet-based station and trying to do things differently, I'm more concerned about quality over quantity. You know, like I don't want to have just a mass of stupid shows on my radio station that nobody wants to hear. I want quality content that people want to engage with and want to come back to and listen to. You know, like I came up with WJMS Radio Reimagined because I wanted to do things differently than what you hear on regular radio. So I don't focus on mainstream artists. I focus on local artists. You know, I don't talk about all of the hot topics that are happening right now. I mean, right now it's been a dumpster fire. So there have been no shortage of hot topics to talk about. But we try to talk about things in a way that makes sense to regular people, because a lot of times you listen to NPR, you listen to, you know, Fox or any of these other stations that are just talking about politics or talking about healthcare or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. And people our age, our eyes just glaze over. We're like, what does that, I gotta go get this bag. What does that mean for me right now? Like, can I not go to work? You know what I mean? Like, we're not really plugged in and really paying attention to things that are happening in the world, because people aren't talking to us about it in a way that makes sense to us and that in a way that relates to what we are going through. So what I want to do on WJMS is have those conversations about politics, about sports, about religion, about hot topics, about current trends and stuff like that, and things that are going on in a way that makes sense to us so that we can actually understand it, you know, so people can engage with the content and actually ask questions and be like, oh, damn, wait a minute. If we elect this person, I'm going to lose my health care, or my mom is going to be not covered, you know, like, so people are so caught up with the bright and shiny picture of things on the outside. What WJMS tries to do is focus on the things that are happening inside. And that means inside the community. That means in and around your neighborhood, on your block. I want to talk to the lady down the street who's been running a daycare for people on the block that can't afford regular daycare. You know, like, I want to talk about the people who are making a difference behind the scenes that the media is ignoring because they're trying to show you the bright, shiny object over
whatever
here.
they want to show you. Yep.
Yeah.
Watch this.
You know,
Watch this.
and the perk about having a radio station like this is that the FCC, thankfully right now, they're not regulating things too much. So we can say what we want, we can do what we want, and we can kind of have the conversations that we want to have without being censored, without having to answer to, you know, big bosses up in the office or anything like that. Like, we can talk about real life shit and not have to worry about people's, you know. And so it's one of those things where, you know, with the radio station, I wanted to do things differently. And I told myself that I was going to do things differently. And that's just how I want to, you know, sort of run everything. I forgot what the question was you asked me.
No,
I'm getting a lot of
it's cool because what I really wanted to give you your flowers on too, and it's for me personally, just observing, like, WJMS radio serves as a platform for the everyday person.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not about the glitz and glamour. Just like you said, it's about the community. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is where, for you, everybody's talking about doing something.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing is just talking. But you roll your sleeves up and say, you know what? This is going to be a platform that makes a difference in the community, keeps the conversation going, but there's action behind the conversation.
And the platform resembles her. I just noticed the platform that she's promoting. If you notice her whole story, she's even telling you she's just like everybody else. I don't know what the fuck be going on sometimes. I know that I'm gonna roll my sleeves up every day I get up. I'm gonna go to work every day. I'm gonna read up on what I need to read up on, get the knowledge, and this is going to happen. We're not making another path. This is going to happen. I'm gonna figure it out.
Absolutely. So another question for you, in building WJMS with all the roadblocks and stuff, what type of guidance did you receive along this journey of creating WJMS Radio?
Guidance is a weird word. And I say that because there's not a lot of people doing what I'm doing. So I don't know that I've gotten guidance so much as I've gotten friendships and support. Support is probably a bigger word that I would use more so than guidance, because like I said, everything has been trial by fire. You know, I figured out what servers to use. I figured out how to broadcast. I figured out how to put phone callers into the radio station. I figured out, you know, how to incorporate and do an LLC. But what I can't put a price on and what I can't even count the amount of is the amount of support I've gotten from friends and family and people who have talked me off the ledge. You know, people who have, like, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're up, you're down. Like, there's days where you're like, can't nobody touch me. I'm doing this. And then there's other days where you're like, damn, like, I should just go on ahead and take a 9 to 5 because, like, you know, like,
guaranteed money. I know when it's coming.
You know, it's hard being an entrepreneur, but there have been people in my life and in my corner who have supported my vision. People who have seen what I see for WJMS and have been like, you know what? I'm riding with it. And they've been there through the bumpy rides. So, you know, there's times where I'm on the ride myself and I'm looking back and there's people behind me like, we here.
Like, we don't see what you see, but we trust the driver.
Yeah.
Like,
you know?
We don't see nothing that you're seeing, but we know it's a beautiful road ahead.
And the fact that I have those people in my corner and the people that are like, Jaymie, remember why you started this in the first place, and who talked me off the ledge when I'm feeling down on myself, or when I'm feeling like I'm just like, why am I not the Breakfast Club yet? Why am I not hot 95 or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, when I start comparing myself to other things and I'm like, you know, like, they talk me off the ledge and remind me, like, you're doing things differently, you know, so you're not going to look like everybody else is going to look. You're going to look like your own, what you're doing. And so that kind of guidance has been honestly the thing that keeps me going, you know. And then there's times where, you know, even just starting the show, when you started the show and you started reading down the resume about the stuff that I was doing and how I had the platform, that reminds me, like, oh yeah, you kind of a badass bitch. Like, wait, like, sometimes you forget, you know, every now and then you forget, and you have to get reminded. And I get that. I get those bumps up and that extra pep in my step when I tell people what I do, and they're like, oh, like, and I see the taken aback face, like, you have a radio station? Yeah, no, I don't just have a show, I have a platform. And they're like, they're like, and it's like they realize how big that is, you know. And then they realize, like, I'm a Black woman in this position, and they're like, oh, there's not a lot of you. And I'm like, no, there isn't, you know. That kind of stuff boosts me up because it makes me realize, you know, I'm doing it. Like, this is something that people haven't seen before. This is new, this is shocking, this is interesting, and it's worthwhile, you know. So the guidance has been really just friends and family reminding me why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I mean, of course, if I can Google something to figure it out, you know, I'm not a rocket scientist, but like, it's been just a lot of research and long nights, and I'm going to try this and see how it works. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to pivot and try something new, type of situations. But, you know, I also try to look at my peers. I look at other folks who have successful podcasts. I look at how they're marketing. I look at how they're putting their content out there. I look at the kind of stuff they're talking about, and I try to see if there are ways that WJMS can mirror that or improve upon that or expound upon that, so that we can see that same kind of result. So I don't have a guidance counselor per se. I mean, the world is my guidance, but also my support is probably the bigger part of how I do all of this.
Okay, sure. So last question: when this is all said and done, what type of mark do you want to leave in the radio industry?
I want people to remember me. You know, I don't want to fade away. I don't want to be like, oh, what was that? Remember, she had a thing and she was doing the thing. Like, I want to be a trendsetter. I want to, like, I'm blazing this lane for other people behind me. You know, like, I've talked to other, you know, young folks. Like, I've been to events where they've had me talk to kids, and I've been to events where I've emceed for, you know, younger teenagers and college age kids or whatever. And I've told them what I'm doing. I've answered their questions, and I've seen that same spark that I had in my eyes when the first time I walked into Wired 96.5 in Philly, and I was just like, Oh yeah. Like you just get this, anybody who's walking in their purpose, and I say walking in their purpose, meaning you're doing something that you truly love to do. There's a moment in your life where you get exposed to it that changes you, that you remember and that you never really come back from. And I'll always remember that, that moment that I walked in. Not Wired 96.5 is like, I don't even know. It used to be like a more hip hop kind of station. I think it's switched now in Philly, but it used to be a hip hop kind of station. And I remember I walked into there because I was working 2 jobs. I had the internship with them, and I had like 20 credits that year. I was just on drugs apparently. But like I just was interning at night, and I remember I walked into the studio with Ricky Rain was the DJ at the time, and
Hey, that's when he would play the B-side. That's why I love Wired 96.5 late at night, because they played the non-hits, the B-side.
Yep.
That would eventually become the hit. So
yep. And I remember I walked in the door of the studio, and I was just like, I just felt something. Like I can't describe how I felt. I was excited. I was just like, yes, like it just felt right. And then it was like I sat down with him for the night, and I was in the studio with him, and I remember he was doing a show about relationships or something. And I am 18, couldn't have been more than 18 years old. And I'm in the studio with him, and I forget what happened, but I like started talking about something I had gone through, and people started calling up to talk to me. And he was like, I'm sorry. He's like, is this the Jaymie Jam show? Like, what's going on here? Like, and I was just like, I'm 18. I don't know anything about love. The Jaymie who was 18 is not the Jaymie who's sitting in front of you at age 33. I'll tell you that right now. Like, two totally different women. I don't know nothing about dating. And people calling me, asking me for advice. And I just remember sitting in that studio with him and like just remembering it. And I'm pretty sure if I dig deep enough in my email, I still have those clips from when I was on the show with him. And like,
those is classic right there.
It's so classic. Yeah. And I just remember feeling fulfilled in a weird way, and from there, I just was like, radio is it. Radio, it's radio. I don't care how it is radio, it is radio. And then I put this idea that I wanted to be a Sirius XM host. And then, from there, the opportunity, like I said, to launch WJMS happened. And now I'm like, truly like, there are days where I'm just like, man, I will knock all this stuff over right now. But then there are other days where I'm like, I love this. This is it, So my mark that I want to leave on the industry is that I want people to remember the radio station. I want people to remember the opportunities that I've given to people that couldn't get there, people that couldn't get in the door, interns who were like, I just really want to, experience radio, and who have gotten to experience some heavy duty radio stuff with the radio station. And like, I just want the connections that I've made with people to be genuine enough that they stick with people, and that they remember, because people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I want people to feel like what I did for them with the radio station meant something. And I still get kudos from artists and authors who are like, yeah, man, WJMS gave me my first shot, or gave me my first chance, or my first opportunity, or was my first stepping stone. And I look back and I smile at that, because I know that that's something they're going to remember. And that's all I want. I just want to make an impact on those around me. Just like I expect the radio station to do. I want that for myself too, and for WJMS.
I will say that WJMS radio gave me my first radio show.
There you go.
It's like we had,
and I'm trying to get you back.
we'll talk about that, because we might have to revamp and remix it, but in due time. But I will say that, like I said, we had the idea for the No Vaseline podcast, and it was like we was going to do it, but I'm like, no, this needs to be on a bigger thing than just us putting the audio together and singing it out. I'm like, yeah, I have a friend who has a radio station. And we made a somewhat of a lasting print with WJMS, but
you were my raunchiest of shows.
We'll talk about that later. But I will say, with you having those dreams and aspirations of being at Sirius XM, you created your own Sirius XM with all of the radio shows that you have, and you're providing a foot in the door for a lot of people. And I tip my hat off to you for that, because that's huge. And
I never take my hat off either. My people's gonna know, like, this real. I never take your hat off.
But yeah, so like I really want to, give you your props. And we've been friends since what, 2012? Looking at 7-8 years, and
You've been around since before the radio station, honestly.
For the radio station. So,
which is weird to think. I'm like, there was life, pre, like ADWJMS, like what?
Right. But at the same time, I've seen you grow through our friendship and just you staying focused on that goal of having your own. It's like, man, I tip my hat off to you for that. And I really congratulate you for doing your thing. You are a huge inspiration to people that you don't even see.
Like I'm ready to end this interview right now and get to work. Like you got me wanting to work right now. Like that's what I got.
Flowing for sure.
That's what make me want to move. Like
so,
for real.
Ms. Jaymie, tell them where they can find you.
That's right.
And if people are interested in having their own radio show, please give them your information right now.
Absolutely. And the one thing I didn't mention, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention, is the fact that I'm also using the radio station as a platform to get rid of the stigma around lung cancer. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but I am a stage 4 lung cancer warrior. So amidst all of the things I'm doing, I'm also battling lung cancer. And I've never smoked, and I don't smoke currently, and nobody in my life has cancer in my family. It's just my own bad luck, if you will. But every day I try to, combat the stigma that comes with it, because everyone just assumes that, oh, you smoked, you deserve lung cancer. But by and large, there are a lot of young people like me getting diagnosed with late stage lung cancer who never smoked, because it's not about whether or not you smoke, it's about having lungs, and everybody has lungs. So I try, when that happened to me in 2018, I started to make WJMS a platform for that as well, to sort of expose the stigma and to get rid of the stigma that comes with lung cancer, so that people realize that like it's not a smoker's disease. Like same way men can get breast cancer, there are no guidelines on having certain types of cancers. It just is what it is. And so I try to take the platform and dispel that myth as often as I can. But that being said, folks want to find me, if you want to get in touch with me, if you want to follow me, if you want to join the radio station or anything like that, subscribe to our website or to our newsletter. You can go to wjmsradio.com. We're also on all your favorite social media at WJMS Radio on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. We also have some content on YouTube. Yeah. And then if you want to follow me personally or get in touch with me personally, I am at @just_jams on Instagram, and I'm Jaymie Jam on Facebook, but you can find me through Chris's page as well. And yeah, I am an open book. If anybody ever wants to chat about radio or lung cancer or any of the above, feel free. I try to be as transparent.
Put out there now. They might be coming. You sure about this? You rated? Okay.
Listen, November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Holla at your girl. I'm trying to do a lot of interviews. Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for doing this for us.
Appreciate this.
Again, WJMS Radio, follow them. And like I say, fuck with them because we fucking with them. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I appreciate you guys, and I wish you guys a ton of success for what you guys are doing.
Appreciate that. You keep on pushing, man.
That's right.
Keep on pushing.
Fuck lung cancer.
All right. Thank you so much again.
All right. I'll see you guys.
Hey, what up, family? So if you like to see more content like this, as well as receive more game to get yourself on the road to financial freedom, make sure you go to GMCLUV.com. That's GMCLove.com, and sign up for our financial motivation course and get at least $1,200 back when you invite a friend to the course. Again, that is GMCLUV.com, right here on my shirt. And if you like hoodies like this, make sure you go to GMCLUVmerch.com. That's GMCLovemerch.com. Get yourself a hoodie, sweatshirt, t-shirt. Show some love. This is what it's all about. Group economics. And enjoy the rest of the podcast.